Hi.
Sam, thanks for your sharing your experiences and for all those insights. For some of the questions which were more, I had a couple of questions which were about validating the product that you're trying to build. So one of the things that you benefit by applying to the 10,000 Startups program is you get a crowd of mentors from the industry to come and help you validate. It won't be like one of these, like this one-off sessions, but it'll be regular validation. You go meet, we'll put you in front of customers and you can go and validate things. So the application will be open in about 10 days time from now. So we encourage for those of you who are not applied into the 10,000 Startups program to go ahead and apply. So we'll just move to the last leg of our sessions today. So we have three great founders of startups on a panel with moderated by Srinivas Kolipara, who is the COO of IIIT Hyderabad. So let me first invite Derek Jose. He's the co-founder at Flutura and has more than 20 years experience in monetizing data. At Flutura, he focuses on products and branding. Derek?
It's not today, we can touch later on. Are you in Hyderabad for it?
Next up, we have Karthik. Karthik is the co-founder and CEO at DataWeave. He leads the sales and business development efforts at DataWeave. Previously, he was a software engineer, worked on multiple things, including information retrieval, information management, distributed data processing, and scalable architecture. Karthik. And finally, we have Ranjit Nair from Germinate, founder of Germinate. Ranjit Nair is a PhD in artificial intelligence from the University of Southern California. Post his doctorate, he worked as a senior research scientist with Honeywell Labs in the area of decision theory. He started Germinate with the intention of helping companies make sense of large volumes of data to take better decisions. So, Ranjit. Finally, I would like to invite Srinivas Kolipara from IIIT Hyderabad. He'll be moderating the session with these founders.
Thank you. Yeah, we got a mic. There's my one. What do you hold that? So good evening, everyone. So interesting group of people here we have. So let me start by asking you, could you share a little about your company's journey? You know, what are some of the key milestones that you've had along the way, and any interesting lessons that you've learned that you could pass on?
Sure. So we started with the intention of helping companies build decisions, but we didn't really have a product in mind at that stage. So we really meeting with customers, potential customers with ideas, trying to validate the ideas. And while that was going on, we embarked on building products for other companies. So pretty much the services model in the initial 2 years. But all the while, we were constantly coming up with our own product ideas and trying to validate those before we actually started building them. So one advice I would give anybody is that if you have an idea, you need to validate it soon before you actually start building it. It's important that you get a customer involved in that process. Because you might end up imagining a feature set which is completely different from what the customers actually need.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been more than 3 years that we've started DataWeave, and the entire idea of DataWeave came through from a previous, when I was working at a media group called Network 18. At least the broad problem area, we saw it when we were working there, and we came out when we started DataWeave, but productizing the entire idea that we had in mind, that's where, we were not domain experts per se. So we pretty much banged on our first set of customers to roll out version 1. All the feature sets, what works, what does not work, everything was told to us by our customers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, we have been on this journey for the last 2 years. One important learning we learned was initially we had a small prototype which we used to go and show to the customers and said, is it the right problem you're solving? Is it a pain? They used to say, definitely it's a pain. It was for the oil and gas industry on safety. And they said it's a definite pain, it will save lives, but we never got a project out of it. For a long time, we were not able to convert that into a paid project. We realized it later that we had to frame the question slightly differently. Is there a problem you want to solve and are there budgets allocated for it? And that was an important thing. So I always ask the question, is there a pain? Is there a line item in your budget allocated to solve that problem? And that is a true validation of the intensity of the pain.
Great. So obviously customers are driving everything that you guys are doing today, right? Were there any things that you learned from a customer that you didn't think were obvious to you before you spoke to them? Any of you?
So I'll take our own example. So just before I answer the question, I didn't tell you guys what we actually do. So we are in the business of helping brands understand what is being said about them in social media, emails, and chats. Essentially, we're in that part of data analytics or big data analytics which relates to conversational analytics, text analytics, and we have nice visualizations and dashboards which they can use to actually act on that data. So for us, initially, in terms of things that are not obvious to us, one of the things which was really not obvious to us was how much integration they actually wanted in their processes. For one, it was extremely people intensive. We realized that a lot of enterprises did not want to learn another tool. So for us, then it said, okay, you know what, they don't want to learn another tool. So can we provide them those kind of features which would make the tool much more intuitive and ready to use for them? Or even go to the extent of offering professional services on top of it so that we deliver the insights right to them. So to our mind initially, we were thinking, oh wow, you know, it's a nice dashboard, they'll learn it, they'll use it. But when we actually spoke to customers, we realized there was a lot of reluctance to learn new technology.
Nice. Do either of you have anything?
Briefly explaining what we do at DataWeave as well. We have a product which basically offers brands and retailers real-time pricing and assortment analytics, mainly for their strategic as well as day-to-day decision making. One thing that was not obvious to us is customers rarely say no. As in, you pitch something to the customer, rarely do they say no, we don't want to use it. They'll always, make you go around in circles, and it's only over time that we've started to pick that up.
Yeah, there's a definite reluctance on their part to disappoint you. Yeah. You've got to be able to read between the lines. Great. Anything to add?
Just one input. So our products are geared towards the asset management side of things. So the initial product we had developed had the output of that analytical thing was a series of graphs and dashboards. And we felt those dashboards were answering questions which had previously not been answered. And we were very positive that people would adopt it. Once we started trying in the field, we figured out that there are two types of consumers. One is the head office folks, the other is the field team. The field team necessarily did not have the mental model to consume graphs. They always used it, all this is good, so what do I do about it? So what we realized out of it was recommendation on an action is very important for the field folks, whereas if you package the same data product as graphs, head office folks would consume it. So that was something which was not very intuitive to us when we started.
Cool. And so one question I didn't ask any of you, but why did you choose big data? I mean, do you have prior experience? Was it something that, your education led you to, or what's that?
So in my case, my PhD was in the area of decision theory. And we didn't work on large volumes of data, but it was in the whole area of making better decisions. When we started on this problem, it was before the term big data was really cool. It was not a buzzword. We didn't realize we were doing big data when we were doing it. So, so I think in our case, it was really an application of stuff that I learned. And then as the volume of data started increasing, we realized that some of the methods we applied initially don't scale very well, and we started looking at more and more technologies that work better and better. And soon we were in the thick of big data. So it was really Providence, I would say.
Okay.
Something similar. We were always passionate about solving hard data problems, and I still believe in the data part of big data and not so much on the big part of big data. So it's always going to be about data. I was talking to a professor, and he gave us this excellent example about cameras. Initially, you had these analog cameras, and then came digital. So when the digital cameras were introduced, people used to ask, "Oh, is it a digital camera?" But now you ask kids today, and a camera is digital, right? So data is going to be of all kinds. Big, it happens to be incidental. I think so. The big part is going to fade away. Data is still going to remain in the end.
Did you have anything to add?
Nothing much. So I got a chance to work on the UID project, and it opened my mind to some possibilities which I had not seen before. So that was the trigger for this.
Okay. Were there any, on this journey as you progressed and realized you're now in big data, what do you think are the key milestones that you hit where you literally made a turn?
So I think there's one thing we did smart, which was we said we need to find marquee customers first. And these were necessarily, so there were two things that defined a marquee customer. One was the customer had to be someone who was well known, and the moment we say, okay, so and so bank is using us, or this and such telecom company uses our product, then it becomes something which the rest of the industry wakes up and say, oh, they're using it, so it must be good. That's one element. The other was we wanted to make sure that these so-called marquee customers were sophisticated customers, in the sense that they could give us feedback which would actually make our product better and better. So it wasn't enough that they were a big brand, but they needed to be a sophisticated customer. And we chose such interesting marquee customers as our initial customers. We slogged and really took a long time to close those initial deals, but it paid off in the long run.
Right.
So a couple of milestones. The first one was when we hit our first customer. Unlike Ranjit, we did not go after our marquee customers, the big brands before. We looked at smaller players in the market, and then worked with them to mature the product, mature the stability of the product. So getting the first 3 customers was the first, big thing for us. And then the next milestone was when we started, when we were quite confident about the product, and we got some of the bigger brands out of India. So the likes of Flipkart or a Nokia or a Puma. That was another key milestone. So after that, we realized that the business model exists. Whatever problems we've solved, people are willing to pay us, and they definitely see value in this. But we wanted to expand, and we wanted to see if there is a market in these other geographies as well. And that's when we started looking out, and we almost 6 months back, we got the largest retailer out of Southeast Asia as a customer. So that was, another big one for us.
Awesome. So you started with small customers, and moved on to, later you said there was a milestone of a couple of big players. What was the transition between that? I mean, was it that these gave you confidence for that?
Oh yeah, these gave us confidence for that. See, because one thing that we did not have was, we're good at solving hard data problems, scalability issues, representing data, but we're not domain experts. So understanding the domain, understanding what views of data would be beneficial, how do you measure ROI, all of this took time, and at least the initial year and a half we struggled, and but it was only after that we started seeing this traction.
Awesome, thanks. Anything to add?
So from our point of view, there were 2 milestones. One was we are all first-time entrepreneurs. We had never done a startup before. The first time somebody wrote a small check, it was a true validation for us, saying that they're seeing some value in us. Second big milestone was when an investor came in, Hyatt invested in us. We saw that, yeah, truly there is something we are on to. So those are the 2 things which reinforced our belief.
Okay, so as of today, if you don't mind just telling the audience, like, where is your company at in terms of the number of customers, revenue, just to give them kind of a where you're at.
So we don't talk about the revenue figure officially. I'll give you a ballpark. It's in the $1 million a year kind of mark right now.
Okay.
We work with more than 100 brands in India, and we completed our Series A round of funding in the end of March, which is allowing us to now take the product to the US. So we're going to set up offices there and now start selling the product outside India as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we are a team of 21 folks now, and most of them, working on this entire space of semantics, text analytics, and data. So I can say that we've been able to cover our costs and also fund all our marketing expenses. So
great.
Yeah.
And how long have you been around for?
3 years.
And you?
This product was launched 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Nose is above water, so it's okay. So we are at a stage where we figured out that selling our data products is no longer a Lone Ranger's sell. So we are actively trying to forge partnerships because the products, the industries we sell to, utilities and oil and gas, you can't sell alone. You need to be a part of a consortium to sell to them. So we are at a stage where we are trying to forge active relationships to be in the game.
Great. So the stage that you're at for a lot of startups, just getting to that stage is tough. But you've made it this far and you're doing well. What do you think your key challenges are going forward from here?
So I think the key challenge for us is going to be scale. And while we're at this current volume, there's a lot of things that can be done by the founder or the founding team, and you can get by on some passion. The next level of growth is going to come from putting good processes in place. It's going to be trying to institutionalize a lot of the things which we might have been doing automatically. But now that we have a large sales team, we're finding that the sales cycles aren't as fast as they were before. So we're realizing the value of investing in training of our sales folks, making sure that a lot of things which were being done by habit are now they made a habit for everybody. So we're creating our sales Bible. We're making sure we have good processes in place for tracking our entire sales funnel. I think it's putting in that discipline that's going to take us to the next level. And so that's one area, one challenge we're facing. The second challenge we face, and I think this might be true of others, is it's very hard to get talent in this industry. That's people who want to join a startup, who have a strong appreciation and love for data. So that's a challenge which we are facing. And as we try to scale, we're going to have to find those people who can join us. One insight that I was fortunate enough to learn from other founders was it's better to keep a position vacant and work long hours than to try and fill that role with someone who's kind of not quite there, but myopically it seems like it's a good idea. So we've decided to take that position that it doesn't matter if we have to stretch ourselves, but we will be careful about who we hire.
Yeah, I think that's a really important lesson that a lot of startups, it's a challenge that a lot of startups face, is finding talent. And I think a lot of people do tend to compromise and just, this guy's available, we'll just hire him for now. And that could set you back as well, right?
Yeah, we've made that mistake, and you correct them. Apart from the challenges that Ranjit said, another challenge that I see for DataWeave is also distribution. As in, until and unless you get in, at least when you're looking at signing up bigger businesses, until unless you go and you stand in front of the customer, you demo the product, you follow up, you give them the assurance that there's someone there who will be readily available in case something happens. How do you solve these problems? One way is to look at partners, but how do you evaluate partners, who the right partners are? Do you build a small sales team, but how how do you incentivize the sales team across different geographies? How do you follow up? Also, how do you start supporting? Let's say, we've recently signed up a partner in Australia.